individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Ooh, hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She Squatchers. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and I've got my trusty teammates on the line with me. I've got Tammy Trickle. Hi, Tammy.
Hey, everybody. I'm the girl with the curls today.
She looks like she got a tight perm, but she didn't. And then we've got Jenna Grover. Hi, Jenna.
Hey there. Glad to be here tonight. Excited for the show.
We have a really awesome guest with us tonight from the state of Wisconsin, which is just one state over from me. I'm in Minnesota. We've got Jay Bachochin. Haha, I bet I said that right. Hey, Jay.
You said it. It was perfect. Hello. Hello, ladies. How are you? Thanks for having me on tonight.
Hey, thanks for coming on.
So sorry I didn't participate in the dance. I had to, I've got my man card. I had to be cool.
You'll do better.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
But it was good.
Come
good
back.
dance.
If you come back, we're going to expect you to dance.
All right. I'll learn the moves.
Hard.
You can dance at the end.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I will.
Awesome. Well, of course, you've come to talk to us all about Bigfoot in the state of Wisconsin. How did you get interested in Bigfoot?
Actually, it was a fluke, believe it or not. You know, if I'm going to date myself, back in the 70s, I was watching the old creature feature black and white films, the creature features, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, King Kong. And I've always had a fascination for the supernatural, not so much paranormal, but that too. And, seeing a UFO sighting in the late 70s really piqued my interest into that part of it. My Grandpa K, was early chapters of MUFON in Chicago when that was starting out. And so we had a lot to talk about. He was like how you would see Fox Mulder now. Well, older Fox Mulder. And so throughout my life, it was always looking at like Loch Ness Monster and hearing about those. Now, I did see Mysterious Monsters back in the 70s in the theater, and I did see the Patterson-Gimlin film. And honestly, even being, around 11 years old, 12 years old when I saw it, I'm like, it's just like a dude in a suit. I mean, I was that young, and that's what I saw. So I always had that, the pre-notion of Bigfoot being, a legend, a myth, something that people talked about around campfires or scary stories. And with everybody looking for it, there's never been a body, and every time one surfaced right there, it turned out to be a hoax. So it's like it was never there. So how did I get involved in this? That was your question. After I started doing paranormal investigating, 2007 to like 2013, 2014. And I only did that because I was watching TAP's Ghost Hunters on TV. At the time, it was the only ghost show that was on TV. And I'm like, how much is this for ratings? Is it real? It's on TV. So I set out to hunt the truth. And the truth was going to be what I discovered, not what I hear, not what I see on computers or, YouTube or anything like that. But I wanted to know what the truth was. So we did that for several years, had a big team of investigators, but that kind of fell to the wayside because I actually live about 13 minutes away from Bray Road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, where Linda Godfrey, God rest her soul, actually coined the name The Beast of Bray Road back in the early 90s, which is relatively an upright canine dogman. And even so, even though I knew about that, I thought, well, maybe this would be a good time to go kind of check out Bray Road. It's a public road, but it's all privately owned farmland, so you can't get out and investigate. So we're just doing that for many weeks. And then we ended up in the Kettle Moraine. And with that being said, I heard something that sounded like a cross between a person, a kind of a primate uh, type call. And I'll always say I'm not an Outback Jack, I'm not Crocodile Dundee, I'm not Survival Man. And I do my due diligence. We did record it that first night because we were out there looking for the Beast of Bray Road, and all of a sudden I'm hearing a primate sound. And we've never been able to debunk that, but that's what kind of compelled me to start going out there, because after we caught those the audio, I came back and went on the computer, looked at every soundboard of every animal, indigenous, nocturnal or daytime, in Wisconsin and southeast Wisconsin, and we could never find the match. So it was a mystery, and that's what I do. It was a mystery, and that's what catapulted me into where I am today, which is 10 years ago. So if you were going to talk to me 11 years ago about Bigfoot, I would have danced with you on the front. But
So, Jay, could you tell our listeners what the Beast of Bray Road is?
well, technically, since I've never seen it, but the way Linda Godfrey, she did interviews with people, eyewitnesses that have seen it, which is like a 7-foot upright canine standing bipedally, but still has the head of a wolf, very canine. And every encounter, most encounters, I'm going to say 95% of the encounters have always been a terrifying experience, whether it was sitting on the side of the road eating roadkill and a person slowing down to see it, car maybe not starting up right away, and the thing approaching the car. So this has been an ongoing mystery in the Elkhorn area. Bray Road is the term that it was coined, but there have been plenty of sightings of the dog man all around the Elkhorn area, almost as far south as almost where I live, where somebody that I knew had a report who didn't believe in any of this stuff, didn't even consider it. And then one night she's driving her normal route to Lake Geneva on one of these roads, and something was in the middle of the road, and she didn't know what it was. And as she was pulling up to it, it looked like it was crouching down, but it kind of turned, and maybe the eye shine off the headlights caught it, where it were bright yellow. And as she's getting closer to it, an oncoming car is coming from the other direction, and just then the thing stood up. And she said it was taller than her minivan. So she was speculating 7-8 feet. She said, and the thing was so wide, and at this was probably 2017. So again, I'm kind of doing a lot of research with Bigfoot in Wisconsin, but knowing that Dogman is out there. So this entity, I don't even know what to really call it or where to put it. Like Bigfoot can leave tracks, leave hair, leave scat, leave hard evidence. The Dogman, at least in this area, no matter how hard you try to look, you do find certain tracks, but nothing that I would ever consider concrete. But I know it's out there at the same time. So it's definitely kind of a menacing type beast in southeast Wisconsin, but also up in your neck of the woods and Michigan.
Gotcha. So you were looking for the Dogman, and you encountered some sounds that were more like Bigfoot.
Yeah, and that was the crazy part of it. And I document everything, and not just out in the woods, but in life. My kids roll their eyes when they're about to do something. I got to capture the moment. I've got a couple 5 terabyte hard drives, just the abyss of photos and videos. But I did capture when I was out that one night in October of 2013, and that intrigued me so much. Even till this day, I can speculate that's what I heard back then, because we never were able to identify it. And so over the years, Well, I actually, let me back up a little bit. After that happened, that made me want to go back out. And so I think I went out 3 more times before there was a Saturday afternoon without our kids. The kids were little back then. My wife goes, "You want to go hiking?" It was in February in the snow, and I'm like, "Yeah." She doesn't. She kind of rolls her eyes about Bigfoot. She supports me though, and so we went out there, and it was still snowing that day. Beautiful hike. I mean, there was a 1.5 foot, 2 foot drifts all on the path. We were actually making the trails. And if you see the way a person walks, we don't lift our legs up. We just kind of make, you know, trails so you could follow them. And since my wife was just going for a hike and I'm looking on both sides of me, because we're hiking the area where I heard these vocals several months prior to that. And she gets up about 50 yards ahead of me, but I can see her tracks and it kind of goes up and winds around. So I knew where she was at, but I saw these big divots on each side of her tracks that went over her tracks. And as I'm coming up to them, I thought, uh, is that like a rabbits? You know how rabbits can pounce and leave big spots like that. And then I'm thinking deer sometimes because it's kind of coming down a kettle. So I'm thinking the way they would kind of prance down, kind of hop. It didn't. And as I'm getting closer, the divots are getting bigger and bigger. And I look at it and it resembles a foot. And I'm like, no way. Remember, I didn't believe in Bigfoot at all. And I was more looking for wolf prints more than anything. And I see these marks that kind of jump over the track. And I thought, wow, that was a kind of a big hop, is how I phrased it. And I'm looking at it. And also I look to my right and there's another one and another one. And it was in a tightrope fashion, which I didn't really know too much then on how a Bigfoot's gait would be. And I measured the track and it was 17.5 by 6 inches. And same with the next one over. The funny thing was, we were creating these drag marks in the drift of snow. These were just smashed down. There was no drag or anything like that at all. And then from heel to heel, I measured out 53 inches, which I thought, wow, that's a big leap for anybody. So that, besides the vocal several months earlier, then seeing these prints that I could not debunk. Remember, I'm going out hunting the truth. I'm not going out there trying to prove Bigfoot's real. I'm not trying to prove Bigfoot exists or not. I saw these prints. I wanted to know how those were made. And the only way I could really, the first thing honestly that I thought of when I saw these tracks, do you remember the end of The Shining, the little boys in the maze, and then he backsteps, and so I thought, because these tracks were too perfectly in there, but I also enhanced the white powdery snow because I thought, well, maybe Danny got off to the side and wiped away his tracks, but there was nothing like that on there. And so I called my wife back, and oh wait, before I called my wife back, I'm filming the tracks because I take pictures, and I start filming. And as I film and I turn around and I go up the kettle to see where the tracks were coming from, I start hearing these wood knocks right there. And as a person, you're honed in right at that area. So I'm recording on my iPhone 3 at the time, my iPhone 3. And I'm sitting there recording it, but I'm looking at my eyes like, wait a minute. Now I've heard something about Bigfoot knocks. Something is up there. It's right there. I should be able to see it. Now, this is February, mind you. Plenty of snow, and it was still snowing at the time. And it lasted about 52 seconds. And I recorded the whole thing. Never saw it, never saw a movement. And then my wife came back because she says, what's taking me so long? I said, these prints that you overlooked here. She's like, oh, wow. And then I said, did you hear that tapping? And her eyes, oh no, I actually showed her the video. I said, check this out. And then she was listening to the tapping of the wood, and her eyes got as big as saucers because she thought that was me trying to do some sort of Bigfoot call. And I thought, well, it was interesting. And those, between the vocals and then these prints had me really perplexed to keep hunting the truth. So it's kind of where I am today.
Nice, nice. So tell us some of your more exciting experiences. Like,
Oh, all right. So what do we have, about 4 hours tonight? 5 hours? Because I can just keep going.
We love it.
All
we
right,
have
let's
less than an hour.
less than an hour. So I'll talk fast. No,
Tell us your best.
I've kind of going in somewhat of an order a little bit several months later because I kept revisiting this area. So now it's September of that year that I found the tracks. Same path, which is weird. I shouldn't even say that now because a lot of weird things happen along that path. And I was hiking with another researcher, Sanjay Singhal. And at first time, we've talked a lot on Facebook and groups and stuff like that, but this is the first time we went hiking together. And we went hiking, and near the end, it was kind of like, in September around 7 o'clock. So it was getting kind of that dusky look. And as we're walking back, uh, he's hearing things. And first he goes, "Are there acorns falling down?" And I'm like, "Maybe." I mean, I really didn't know. I said, "Possibly." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So we keep walking. And next thing you know, we hear a little something else kind of go through the trees, not falling from the trees, but and then you'd kind of hear like a thud right off into the woods right next to us. And I'm like, now that was weird because they said acorns fall. I don't think acorns go through the tops of trees, horizontally. And so now we're really kind of paying attention, but we're still walking. And here comes another one. Now it hits a rock right by our feet. And I'm like, whoa, now that's weird because that was rock on rock. The cool thing is, I'm recording an old digital tape, crappy camcorder, and so I'm actually recording. I'm not looking through it. I'm just kind of holding it and walking with this bulky thing, but I'm recording everything that's happening. And we walk up again, several more, maybe another 100 yards. And again, you got to remember, in the kettle, you've got up, down, around, bends. And off to the side of the trails, you've got very hard to um, trace through terrain. And I kept thinking, if it was a person trying to keep up with us, how are you not even hearing somebody breaking through all this brush and going up and down? It's very weird. And so here comes another one, lands right between our feet. And Sanjay, who's a little bit more was well versed at that time, goes, there's something out there, it could be Bigfoot throwing it. And I'm like, finally stopped, and I'm like, the rock stopped coming, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna screw it. I'm gonna bend down, pick up a closest rock I have, and whip it out to wherever it's coming from, because I figure if there's a person, maybe they would say something. I don't know. And so I whipped the rock out there. I hit the side of a tree. Now I couldn't hit the side of a barn, but I was like a perfect pitcher at that time. I hit the side of a tree, made a loud clack, and Sanjay's like, "Oh, that was a really good throw." And I'm like, "Yeah, watch. They're gonna try to hit me because I threw the rock." By the time I was done saying rock, you hear from a far distance a trajectory of many rocks being whipped through the tops of the trees. You would just hear landing right by my feet. Again, I'm recording, and you could see me like kind of moving down. Like I saw the rocks. I didn't record the rocks by my feet, but I saw them, and I'm like, what is going on? And that, again, I'm starting to add things up. I'm like, all right, I heard audio almost a year ago out here, and I found these footprints, which I couldn't debunk what those were. And there's just a lot of weirdness. Okay, now we got this rocks. So I'm doing more research. I'm listening to more podcasts of people's encounters, kind of like people are doing right now, hearing my encounters. I'm hearing theirs, and I'm learning a lot more about that. And so at this point, I still couldn't say it though. I'd tell people it was some wood beast. I could not say Bigfoot. I'm sorry. Bigfoot's always been the butt end of a joke. You say Bigfoot, you might as well be locked up for that. So you try to come up with alternative names. Well, you got Sasquatch. Basically what I call them now are just forest people. It all depends on where you want to classify them, because I'm no expert with it, but people know me as the Bigfoot guy. In my inbox, I receive nothing but Bigfoot stuff in there, so which is cool. I like that. So I mean, that was again the first year, probably the first year I did this, and again, I didn't believe that Bigfoot existed. So I still had my doubts because I thought, well, what if it was a banshee of the woods? This is a Ho Chunk area in Wisconsin where I'm hiking. And I thought, what if these are just ghosts out there playing with me? And, but then how do they leave prints? How do they make sounds? So I was going through all this. Maybe they were aliens. We'll just wipe away everything. I got to the point now where I'm like, I think they're all one and the same. I don't even put ghost in a box, UFOs in a box, Bigfoot in a box, Dogman in a box. I think whatever these things are coming from one place.
So what do you think they are?
Oh, great question. Well, now I always hear myself say it, and sometimes I just want to tell myself, don't say it, but I'm going to say it anyway, just because you asked.
Thank you.
Because the reason why is because whenever I hear it, I always sound like that guy, that expert in the field. There's no expert. I'm a student in this. I'm learning every day, every time I go out there, or learning new information about it. But, my motto has always been there's close to 8 billion people in the world, and every single one of us has their own truth. So there may not even be one correct truth. And the only way you're going to find your truth is to go out and discover that truth for yourself. So what I'm all about is never about trying to prove to the world Bigfoot exists. I'm the encourager saying, get out in the woods. If you're very interested in this, you're probably you could have some luck with that. Deer hunter, they'll set up recon trail cams to see where the deer are at. Same thing with turkey hunters, any hunter. So I figure if you're going to go out looking for Bigfoot, maybe Bigfoot will find you while you're out there. But the question is, what do I think they are? I don't even call them creatures. I call them people. I believe the cornerstone of who I am is biblically. I don't go around saying I'm a religious man. I'm a faith man. That's I look at the Bible and I say this is it, because we all have to pick our truths. And my truth is that these people, there was fallen angels, the Nephilim. I'm sure you guys have heard of that, where they came down and they mated with the females and had hybrids. But I'm not even sure. I always think maybe Adam and Eve look just like a Sasquatch. I think I don't think they're the missing link. I think we're the way we are now, however we evolve now, are the missing link. I think they're ancient people that have a longevity of life. It's kind of hard to back that one up, because I go with the forever jellyfish, and this one lobster that was cut off the shores during crabbing season, or one got into the crab, and they looked at this lobster, and it was crushed when it was down there, but they thought it was very unique looking. And after dissecting it, looking at everything, they discovered this lobster was 400 years old. And I'm like, it's insane, because I'm like, what if it didn't crush the lobster? And then that got me looking into other marine life, which there's one called a forever jellyfish, which doesn't reproduce. It kind of breaks apart its own entity. It just can keep living. And then that made me start thinking of like Yoda from Star Wars being 900 years old. Then as I thought that, I'm like, well, wait, biblically, the Bible spoke that men used to live to be 800, 900, 1,000 years old. So I'm like, wait a minute. So what if these people stayed away from this civilization where they they became, I don't want to say one with their environment, but they're able to harness everything from their surroundings without technology, just like today, cars, phones, everything that we have that's blocked at the processed foods that we eat that might, you know, stymie the way we could use telepathy. And they have it all. And it's kind of where I'm at right now. I believe that they are ancient, the ancient people that have a longer life expectancy than us because we only compare Bigfoot to us. If we only live to be 80, 90 years old, that's what we think they would, or the primates. I have nothing to back that up again. It's just, it's the way I would feel about my faith in the Bible and what I'm doing today. So that's my answer. The long
Nice.
end.
Thank you. That was a great answer. So since
Thank you.
we've got you here, what about interdimensional travel?
Well, the the tracks that I found back in 2014 with my wife, I counted 12 of them. I followed them. It was a trackway, but it ended on the top of a fallen oak with some snow on it that looked like it was disturbed. I couldn't tell if it was a heel, the front and the toes, or even a hand. But there was no other prints after that. And the closest tree, because it kind of came into a clearing, and I just remember thinking the closest tree would have been about 20 feet away. So I thought, well, either this thing jumped or it walked through a portal, which I've never seen a portal before with interdimensional travel, or it sprouted wings and flew away, which is even more frightening. Um, but I really didn't know. And I always hear that theory of, Bigfoot. We've all heard of what? The apers, which are just the flesh and blood primate. That's it. No more, no less. And you've got the woo, which is the paranormal side of Bigfoot, the ghost, or the supernatural paranormal part of it, the ET Bigfoot, and then the Nephilim Bigfoot. So going with the woo, I'm like split right on that camp because I believe Bigfoot is flesh and blood, 100%. But I believe it has supernatural abilities that we can't understand. Uh, People talk about it cloaking, and we can talk about this in a second because I did see a cloaked figure just a couple of weeks ago out in the kettle. That, you know, is it a technology they use, or is it supernatural, or is it something that they're able to control, kind of like Obi-Wan? This isn't the Bigfoot you're looking for, and it's just we're more weak-minded to where that's how come we can't hear them or see them sneaking up on us, because something that big, flesh and blood, should, sound like, I was going to say like a bulldozer going through the woods, because whenever you hear a squirrel out there and it's really quiet, that thing's a loud ruckus. So this flesh and blood, um, I don't want to say creature, these flesh and blood Bigfoot people have some sort of uniqueness to them. Now you're asking about interdimensional travel. In a way, I, and this is tough, but this is what I saw. These are both of my films. And August of 2020, we had the trifecta of a Bigfoot encounter. And it was a perfect August night. No mosquitoes really, nice and cool, no wind. And we hear out in the distance a barn owl. And, the who cooks for you? Who cooks for you? It's a real cool sound that they make. And I was repeating that. And about 17 to 18 yards to my left, pitch dark, because that's how I hike, we heard a very weird owl call that sounded like a person making the sound of an owl. And I thought, I had my flare, my thermal on, and I'm like, I was more thinking it was a person more than Bigfoot or anything like that. And I turn around and there's nothing there. I can see where the path kind of goes around, but it's quiet. You hear nothing. But as I'm still looking, I'm looking out in the woods and I'm seeing a dark, nice yellow thermal image that looks like it's by a tree. Now, I've been fooled all the time out there. You can look out there and you can see a raccoon or a possum going up and down trees, or I've caught a flying squirrel on thermal. But whatever this was, looked like it was there. Then it would go back behind the tree and then come back out slowly and then go back behind the tree. And I couldn't tell depth. So I'm like, what am I looking at? Because this didn't seem like a behavior of a nocturnal animal. And I start looking at it, and all of a sudden it looks again. All of a sudden I see it on both sides of the tree. So now I'm like, okay, I see the tree. I see this heat signature. All of a sudden it ducks behind the tree again. And then the two people I was hiking with, Karen and Anthony, they don't know what I'm looking at. And I'm not really narrating what's going on, except I said I saw a thermal image out there. Just then, an orb of light right from that area shot in an arcway in front of us, not behind the trees. It couldn't have been mistaken for when you're out in the woods and you see the trees and you see light through there. That could be the horizon, obviously, depending on where you're pitched. This was in front of us. And it just did this big, slow arc. And as soon as it went out of sight, we heard a bulldozer going through the woods. That's what it sounded like. Just a crash. So that's when I started thinking, wait a minute, this flesh and blood thermal image that I caught, Bigfoot, went behind the tree to evade us, became a ball of light to evade us. It's just where Wacky Jay's mind was going. And then as it went in front of us and out of sight, and then we heard a bulldozing through, which sounded like a loud crash through tree. Did it rematerialize into flesh and blood again? As crazy as that sounds, this is what we experienced. And could I say that was a Bigfoot I saw? Can I say Bigfoot changed into a ball of light? We've got to go with what our truth is. That's what I believe. No matter what anybody will tell me, I was out there. I experienced it. And by you allowing me to come on your program, I'm able to tell you what I saw. I'm not adding anything to it. And so, interdimensional travel, very possible. I've seen big shimmering lights, near not at the same time, same area, and turn around and see this 12-foot radius circle type distortion. And I call it the shimmer. And I thought it was my eyes playing tricks with me right around dusk. You go from a dark room to a light room, and your eyes can kind of flutter. At least that's mine. I should go to the doctor. But uh, it's what I saw. And when I turned around to check my eyes everywhere else, it was perfectly clear. And I turn around again, and there it is, and it just fades away. So again,
what do you think that shimmer was?
Well, at that time, I thought that, originally what I thought was, oh, wow, is this what they're talking about? The cloaking predator look. But I'm like, it was weird because it was more of a circular. Because I'm like looking through a foggy glass to the other side of the woods from where I'm at, but it's all just kind of shimmery looking and light. And then it just faded away. At this point, I thought, I always said I never saw a portal before, but I'm like, is this what they're talking about? Because, I'm expecting the big circle, like a black hole or something like that, but I don't know. And I didn't put my hands in there to find out, to see if I was going to go into another dimension. So,
Do you wish you had now?
yeah, there's a lot of things. It's funny because I always call them, that was a rookie mistake, Jay. I've only been doing this 10 years and I still say it's a rookie mistake of the things I do or the things I don't check. And I don't know why, but yes, if I went back to that point, definitely I would turn around and walk towards it. But it's like, why didn't I? And there's a lot of those, why didn't I, throughout the past 10 years.
I think sometimes you just feel compelled, like you don't need to, like the thought never enters your head that you should go farther. Like when we had our sighting on the flare of a Bigfoot, it never entered any of our heads, and there was 4 of us out there to go closer.
Right.
We
And
just
then,
got the footage, and everyone's like, "Why didn't you go closer?" I'm like, "I didn't feel like I needed to go closer."
but isn't it funny? You don't even think that while it's happening. It's just like you said, you just accept it. And that's what I do with a lot of these. I'll always look back at the video going, you were right there, you fool. Why didn't you go down there? And it's not so much I didn't feel like I didn't have to. I didn't think about it. And that's not like me when I go out, and look into the woods.
I have a question about the ball of light that you saw that floated in front of you. What color was it and how big was it?
Well, I would say from the distance we were at to where we saw it, it looked like it was maybe volleyball size. I never say basketball, but it seemed bigger than a softball size. And it was whitish yellow. It wasn't like a bright light, like if it was a helicopter on the other side trying to blind you, but it was kind of a soft yellow light. And we have seen so many of these out in the woods, the sprites, the Tinkerbell lights that just kind of flicker, go on and off. You don't know where they're at. We've seen these different types of orbs where I've actually seen one when I was at the top of a kettle looking to where there's no trails, there's nothing there because I know these trails. And I just saw this again, kind of a yellowish white orb of light just go from, after gauging it during the day, it had to have been over 30 yards just real quick. And then as I was calling the person who was looking the other way, obviously, what I just saw, it went back from left to right again. And, I have a body cam, but body cam didn't pick it up from that angle, from that distance in the dark. I've seen orange ones out there that follow a trail. And those were weird because I thought, why do they make orange lights? Like it was like those old time flashlights, but not even as bright. So it wasn't white, it wasn't LED. And because I saw one of those in 2016. Funny, just 5 months ago, yeah, it was about 5 months ago, we were investigating that same area. And I do a leapfrog where if there's 3 of us, we'll send somebody up about 150, 200 yards, the next one in the middle. And then we have walkies and we communicate that way. That same area where I was, the first 2 kind of ended up where I saw the light at in 2016. And so I was the last one, and they could see that I had my like little red light on for night vision. And they said, "Hey, they key in on the walkie. They're like, 'Hey, Jay, what's that behind you?'" And I'm like, "This sounds like a bad B-rated horror movie." I turn around, I'm like, I don't know, darkness. They said that been a light following me as I was walking back up to them, that they could see where that was going on. So I don't know. We've seen all types of lights out there, orbs. It's crazy. I don't
So
even know. Yeah.
when you see these orbs and when you're experiencing this, are there feelings that come along with it? Like, do you feel nervous or do you feel something you normally don't feel?
There's definitely a little bit of anxiety, uh, not fear per se, weirdness. So hard to put into words because, you know, there's only been a handful of times being out there that I was rattled. You know, we men, we never say we get rattled, right? But there's been a few times where it was just utter fear. And it's never really been with the lights though. And now when I see the lights, just in the past couple of years, I'm like, oh yeah, all right, I'll document that. But it doesn't do anything anymore because I have no idea what they are. They're just there.
Isn't it funny how we just have to learn to accept these things that, I mean, these adventures we go on and we see these incredible things and we just have to accept it.
Yeah, it's and then what are you doing? You're trying to tell people about this, and they're just like, huh, you know,
You're
it's
nuts.
yeah,
You're
right.
cray cray.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm getting home late at night and my wife's either still up, sometimes she's not, but she'll always ask me how'd it go, and then I'll tell her, and she's like, really? Okay, so tomorrow we have to, the plans. So it's never when I tell people they're just more really, and that's it. That's where it ends because they're not out there. And you can only tell people of your experiences, but you can't convince them. And nor should I. I mean, how many people are out there right now trying to convince the world that Bigfoot's real with their videos? I have 2 documentaries out on Prime that I'm not putting that out there to prove to the world this is what is. This is my story. There are a lot of people that are really well versed in the Bigfoot world that traveled every state. You know what? My my research area is Wisconsin. This is my focal point. Jay, why don't you go anywhere else? Because I don't have my answers. I don't need to show you a cast, a picture, a documentary. I want to know what they are. That's my bottom line is, it sounds crazy. I just love to make contact.
Totally agree with you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just like to know.
Well, and it's about the experience. So, and I think that's why we're all here. I'm so glad you came on.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. Yes, it is. It is all about the the experience. I call it my journey. And every time I go out into the woods now, it's never about this is the day that contact will be made. This is the day that something unique will happen. And I usually keep it, I always say zen, right? I'm like, I'm going to go out there. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to enjoy nature. Um, since my kids were little, I would bring them out there, just enjoy nature, get them away from the technology of, computer gaming or whatever, and get out there. And if we found tracks and regular animal prints, let's learn together what they are. And so they've been, my oldest son's 15 and my daughter's 11, but they've been coming out with me since they were 4.
You know,
So,
and I bet they're doing so much better off getting away out into the woods and getting away from the computers and the televisions and everything. I think that's so smart. Thank you for having your kids outside. That's where they should be half their lives.
well, thank you for saying that because after my first film came out, when I'd get comments on what a bad father I was for putting my kids at risk out in the woods, and I'm like, I'm not going out during the night. I'm not putting them in harm's way. You've got Mother Goose. I'm Papa Bear. They're in front of me. They stay so much in front of me, but I don't want them growing up being afraid of the woods. And for whoever said at one point that I use my kids as bait for Bigfoot, they couldn't be as far removed wrong from that because my kids are my world. And
Well, you're
yeah,
teaching them to adventure, to be adventurous.
that's
Sorry, I had
it.
to say that.
Oh no, it's perfect because that's what they do. Now, as they get older, when I say, do you want to go out? They're like, well, all right. They're okay. But once I get them out, they're like, thank you so much for getting me to come out here because they forget what that's all about. And really, that's what it is all about. When I go out there, I don't say, let's be respectful. This is Bigfoot's home. No, you know what? This is nature. I'm not a Buddhist monk where I'm gonna, I don't like certain bugs or anything like that, especially ticks. Ticks are a deal breaker with me. But it's basically respecting that, going out there and just kind of being kind of one with the woods. So.
Very cool. Tammy, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, actually. I'm enjoying listening to you talk. And I agree about getting your children out into the woods and having grand adventures. But Jen, do you have anything?
Well, I'm wondering, have you ever talked to the local Native Americans about the possibility of them knowing what these orbs of light are, or what they're about?
Absolutely. I was fortunate to meet a Native American who's, in that general area, and she likes to keep herself identified, private. Doesn't want to be involved in any of this because that's how they are with the woods, and they 100% believe Sasquatch is that spiritual side. When people think of spiritual, they think of a ghost or an apparition. And therefore, that's why a lot of apers say, no, they're not spiritual. But I think we are all, spiritual in a flesh body. Um, and I believe that's what they are. And again, being a part of their environment, and having to exist in this environment, this is where they're able to use those special abilities, supernatural abilities. And again, it's crazy because a Bigfoot will leave a print, so it's 100% flesh and blood. But how are we not seeing them? How about this? If they were this big and massive, how are they getting through all the trees? And they're not following paths. So wouldn't there just be like 8 foot, 10 foot wide, just breakages everywhere where these Bigfoot would be? But they're not. You never see anything disturbed. So it's kind of weird. I mean, a couple weeks ago when we were out there, it was before it started snowing down here in southeast Wisconsin, and my oldest daughter, she's going to be 33 this year, and when we get up around 4 in the morning and go drive up there, sit in the dark. It's beautiful camping chairs. And then when it gets light out, I was out with my 34-year-old nephew, and so as it gets kind of daybreak, you kind of stretch your legs, walk around, and so we're off path, and as we're kind of going near the path again, my daughter sees something going from tree to tree, and she said it was massive. It was kind of a grayish white, but she calls it like a Polaroid picture, like it was stuck in time in between two trees and then was gone. So it's not like she saw it jump from this tree to this tree, but it was kind of like stuck in the middle and then gone. And that was really interesting because, of course, I didn't see it. I'm filming her. I'm documenting her. All right, don't say a word. Let me get, all right, go. And then let her talk. And she's telling me everything. And then we start to walk down there about 40 yards, and we get to where the tree was, and she's showing me where that's at. And all of a sudden she's looking further down to where the trail bends, and then there's just this tree line. And she goes, "Oh my God, do you see it?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "It's right there." And she's looking just at trees. It's like telling somebody, "Do you see that branch? Okay, there's only a million of them. You can't focus on it." She's like, "Right there." And I said, "All right, I'm going to look. Just you keep your eye on it. Don't take your eye off it. Don't blink." And I'm getting my phone ready, and I hit on film or record film. Ha. I hit record, and I handed it to her. I said, "Don't look at the phone. Bring it up to your face, but just get right there." So she was recording this. And again, I don't know what she's looking at. I'm looking at her direction. And as I'm just staring down there, I see at the base of a tree this cloaked figure. step behind a tree. And it was so bizarre because I've never seen it. I've only heard about it. And people say, well, what did it look like? The predator, the head, the shoulders, the arms? I'm like, no, it looked like Harry Potter under a cloak, or Frodo under a cloak. There was a distortion. I couldn't tell the exact height. I surmised that it was 6 foot, around there, but it was at the base of a tree, and I could see the whole distortion move behind the tree. And the reason why I knew it went behind the tree is because the distortion ended as it was moving to the tree. So I was thinking it stepped behind the tree. It was the weirdest thing. It was like looking at the woods, but through kind of a heat like that, and a little bit the shape. I almost called it the ghost that chased Pac-Man, the video game, kind of like that shape. But it did go almost to the ground, and it went behind the tree. So as I'm saying this, and I'm starting to walk up there, my nephew, who broke away from us about 20 yards to our left, walked up, and he's really even keel. If he doesn't see flesh and blood, he's not going to say anything. But he said something. He's like, as he heard me explain, he goes, I saw the same thing. He goes, after you saw it, because when I was over there, I heard you say something, but I saw what looked like a distortion move really super fast from the left all the way to the right really quick. And so we had 3 people seeing something out there. Now, again, was it Harry and the Hendersons? Was it the Patterson-Gimlin film, Patty up close and personal? No, but it was a distortion. It was a distortion of something that I've seen in this area, countless of prints, countless of lights, countless of hurtling, I was going to say sticks, wood knocks, super loud ones out there. So, then what could it be? Or am I just the one that says, all right, look at that haunted house, or that house, it's old, it must be haunted. It's got to have ghosts in there. Not out here, only in the house. And out in the woods, it's not a ghost, because ghosts only live in the house. So it's got to be Bigfoot out here. But I really don't know what I saw. It's everything I'm trying to put together for myself.
See, are you psychic? Are you sensitive, Jay? Because you've had so many fabulous experiences, and the way you're describing your feelings and the way these are happening, it just seems like you're extra sensitive.
Somebody told me once, a long time ago, that I was hypersensitive. So I didn't know what that meant, but I don't think I took that as psychic or anything like that. But yeah, there are weird times in my life where, even before the Bigfoot thing, before the ghost thing, that I would sense things that didn't happen yet, that did, or the UFO I saw in the 90s. I was coming home from work one night at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. I know it was a Wednesday, and I saw this green orb in the sky above me, and I was really close to my house. So that really bugged me. But on that Friday night, I think I fell asleep on the couch, woke up around 2 a.m, looked out the window, and saw the same green orb. So I even thought way back then that it's weird. So, hypersensitive, or I don't know, hyper awareness. I really don't know the word for it, but yeah, that's what I feel when I go out into the woods. I do feel at times I'm being watched. I don't know by what, but I almost feel like I'm on a movie show, and they've got cameras out there, and I feel like I'm being filmed. That's what I feel like. Like it's that feeling of, all right, I'm sitting out here, and maybe because people say you've done documentaries, so you feel like there's cameras out there, but it's not. It's a watchful feeling, but it's not a scary feeling for me. It's just, all right there. I could feel it right in that section, and 15, 20 minutes could go by, and there's nothing. So is it me with a suggestive mind of saying something's out there that's making me feel that way? Again, this is all part of my journey.
Okay, how about gifting? Do you ever do anything with gifting?
I did in the beginning. They used to call me the Candy Man, which sounds very weird now, but I was the Candy Man because I would always like leave like Nestle Crunch or different things like that out there. And every time I would come back to the one tree, and this was honestly very early on, probably 2013, 2014. And I would come back, and sometimes it would be gone. I'd be like, yeah, the Bigfoot got it. Sometimes I'd come back and I'd find the wrapper on the forest floor a little bit away, but you could see all the little teeth marks on it, like it was open. So I'm like, all right, so is there anything to that? Then I start hearing if you do this and you stop doing it, it could be bad for you. I don't know. I mean, again, this is what I've heard in so many reports. And so I sometimes I'd put marbles out there and put a trail cam sneakily, off to the side and come back, and all the marbles were gone. It's cool. So I found a few on the ground, and I looked at my card to see what happened to them. And initially that night, a bunch of raccoons and babies were picking them up and playing with them. They were the big marbles. They're like picking them up and throwing them down, sniffing them. So they were the big marbles. They wouldn't get ingested. And so a lot of them were just scattered. So I'm like, okay, so that I'm not disappointed that Bigfoot didn't play with them or leave me a gift. I found the truth. The truth was the night bandits of the woods that people don't think about all the time, right? That's what they call them, the bandits. The little raccoons, cute little dudes that the day that I went to go pick up my trail cam, they were still messing with them because when I checked the final thing, they all of a sudden stop doing what they're doing and scoot up a tree really quick. So it must have been right when I was coming there. But that's the truth. And that's really what I'm after. I'm not after about the gifting. I didn't keep going with it. I don't know why. Sometimes I play a certain song on my iPhone 13 now. Now we're advanced, right? 10 versions later, and I'll like play a very calming kind of cowboy song that I play out in the woods each time I'm out there. When I originally go out there, I do a hand signal every single time, which started out as kind of a joke because when I first started going out there, I'd have all in one, the brightest light you could think of, the uh, my HD camcorder, everything on one thing. So I was like a production crew, and I'm like, why won't this Bigfoot come out and see me? And I'm like, well,
Right.
well, because I was always thinking that if we're ever out in the woods in the dark and you saw a flashlight coming towards you, I always ask the people that I'm with, I'm like, what would you do? And they're like, I don't know, I'd probably start going the other way or hide. And I'm like,
I would
okay,
watch them. I would watch those people with the flashlights. I would totally peek. Sorry.
but no, well, what I'm saying is if they're coming at you on the
Oh,
trail. So I said, okay, well, why would you hide or go the other way? And because that's really the correct answer, I believe, because all right, they're human, but you don't know their intentions. Right? What do you do? What are you doing out here? Just like what are we doing out there, right? But what are they doing out here? So, you know, I was just gonna say with that, I just try to look at it as saying you got to be safe when you're out there. If a flashlight's coming up on you and you need to run, rethink what you're doing out there too.
Very good. Very good. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, Jay. I think that we could probably talk to you for hours. We've lost our producer. Something happened to him. So sorry.
Yeah,
Now
well,
the
Um,
show's
that's
got up.
fine.
It'll be uploaded to YouTube. So
yeah.
Well,
So
great.
our listeners in the live chat room can't hear us on the radio, but they've been chatting, going, "Where's Jay? Where's Jay?" We're like, "You're gonna have to catch it on YouTube." So
All
I'm
right.
hoping you'll come back on and talk with us again.
Absolutely. Anytime. Like I said, I could talk for, I was literally going to say hours. I didn't realize the hour went by because, I've been compared to a male version of Edith Bunker. I won't shut up. I'll keep talking until you tell me to stifle it. See,
I love Edith.
Yes.
I love you.
I know I'm dating myself. I'll be 56 this year,
Dating
and
yourself.
I'm okay. I'm good.
And I just gotta say, I have clients who are 100% Norwegian. So I call them 100% Viking, and you look like them. Have you had your DNA tested?
I never have. I'm afraid because they're going to say I'm not even from there. I'm from like an alleyway in Chicago or something. I don't
Oh
know.
no, you're not
They'll
first.
say your
Sorry.
DNA is tainted and they can't find you. You know, part human, part Bigfoot, part something.
Well, some people will call me, part alien sometimes because of my strangeness or, my, I don't know. But it is. It's like I've never done the DNA part of it. I'm only going by the family tree that I know of.
I
I'm
gotcha.
sure. I'm sure. I mean, I'm good
I
at.
I would put money on you being
Do it
Scandinavian.
again. Do
All
it
right.
again.
I would put money on it. Tammy,
I
what do you
bet.
think?
I have no opinion.
I made the comment earlier before we even started the show. I thought he was a Viking.
Yeah, me too. You look Viking to me.
How
All right.
tall are
Well,
you? How tall are you?
I'm only 6 foot.
Meh,
And he's a
not
Viking.
Only.
Viking.
There's short Vikings.
Not
Heck yeah.
Viking.
Oh
Oh,
yeah. There are
yes.
short. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Built
My
like a
clients that
brick.
are 100% Norwegian aren't even 6 feet.
Really?
Really?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
So
You
if you
got the
ever do
muscles,
it,
baby.
you ever do that DNA test, you got to let me know because I swear you're Scandinavian.
all right. Well, definitely will.
Well, thank you for coming on tonight. And, do you want to tell anybody how they can reach you or more about your show?
Yeah, you could. I have a website, jaybachochin.com. On there, you can get to any of my social medias. You can actually get to my first film in 2019 called Finding Jay. It's on Amazon Prime, uh, uh, Paraflix Plus, and Vimeo. And also, as well, with my second film that came out last year, 2022, called Beyond the Kettle, Finding Jay 2. It's a continuing story. Some people say the first Finding Jay was me leading people up to the door. And then Beyond the Kettle, I shove you through the door. So you would see by watching each one on how I go, because I'm very much don't want to be, I'm going to shove Bigfoot down your throat. I'm going to say, this is what's happening. This is what I documented. This is what it could possibly be. But remember, go out and find the truth for yourself. So you can find me on jaybachochin.com. And I also do have Blu-rays available in case Prime or any of those other places shut it down. I do have hard copies of both films.
Oh, Blu-ray. I haven't heard that word in a long time.
Well, I know it's like people are like, can't you go 4K? The 4K now. And I'm like, 1080 is good, because I can tell people it's on HD 1080. Nobody knows what that is. It's high def. It's better quality than your normal DVD, which is only 480 in the resolution. This is 1080. Of course, you got the 4K. A lot of people don't even have Blu-rays or any of these type of devices anymore. They rely on streaming. However, I always say it may not always be streaming. So if you have a hard copy, you could pop it in and watch it anytime.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
If you have a DVD player.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you gotta find a DVD player first.
Or a
Actually,
VHS player, or
Ooh,
no.
that'd
Actually,
be harder.
if you go on Amazon, you could find cheap Blu-ray players. I swear the things like the size of a Walkman. Remember the CD Walkmans? They're like that big that connect to your TV that work beautifully. They're not the big bulky players that were, 10, 15 years ago. They're like just little. And I believe they also have like 4K players out there. They read Blu-ray and regular as well. So go out
Nice.
to Amazon Prime and get yours today so you can pick up a copy of Finding Jay and Beyond the Kettle, Finding Jay 2.
Do
Finding
it.
Jay on Blu-ray.
Do it. That's
Totally
right.
rhymes.
Do it. Do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jay. I hope that we get to meet you in person someday. We're not that far away technically. I think
Right.
we're just over 8 hours drive away from you, Jenna and I anyway. Tammy's twice that away.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely.
Not a fan. I would fly.
Yeah, if people, I don't look to go to speak at events. If people contact me, I'm all open to it, and I will go out and do that. I know I'll be in Indiana this September, I believe. And whenever something comes up, I never say no. That's my problem. If they say, "Do you want to?" Yeah, of course I will. But I guess I don't really search for that. If this went away, if the interviews and the conferences and all that, I'd be out in the woods. And if I won the lotto, I'd be the richest woodsman alive.
Here,
'Cause I'd be out
here,
there all the time. Yes.
here, here.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
We have plans for when we win that jackpot.
Yep.
we do. We actually do. We've talked about it.
And then
Yeah.
you got to put in the SpongeBob 10 years later.
Yeah.
Like, I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
wait to win that pot. Yeah.
That's
Not
awesome.
10 years though. Let's make it 2.
Too.
10
Ah, exactly.
days later.
Yes, there you go. 10
Yeah, I know, that's
hours
faster.
later.
Yes, 1 minute later.
1 minute later. Oh, but yeah, it's I would definitely be doing that. I know I would, because that's what I want to do. I'm not out there trying to prove it to anybody. But yeah, it would be great. If you guys have anything coming up, let's meet up.
Absolutely. That sounds
That would be
great.
amazing.
Love it. All right,
Yes.
Jay. We're gonna stop the show there without music, so you don't even have to dance. You can dance if you want to.
You
You
can
can dance
leave
if you
your
want to. You can leave your friends behind. I can
behind.
sing and I won't get in trouble.
Everybody
Sorry,
look.
I never
right,
get
Jenna.
to sing.
Come on, everybody look at their hands.
All right, guys. I'm gonna sign us off here. Check out our website, cheesquatchers.com.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.